Hello and welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this YouTube version of the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform, or of course follow us on social media at Side PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram, and of course share, spread the word, help us reach our first K here on the channel. Welcome to episode 115, the magazine edition, of course, of the podcast, and join us for more. You are welcome. The international break is finally over, and we're back to domestic football, to normal season football, but the international break didn't really hide a lot of things, despite the fact that, it was pretty interesting for a while as it lasted. There were bigger events and bigger things happening in the world of football, and including, of course, a pretty interesting statement from Pep Guardiola, Manchester City's manager, saying that they're not signing a striker, saying that it's unaffordable for them to sign a striker, saying that with the prices of the market today, it's impossible to buy another striker. We have the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Ferran Torres. We could, round the play without a striker, but it's impossible for us to afford a proper striker. And that is, of course, it doesn't need a genius to understand that it's throwing the shades away from the Haaland discussion, because Erling Haaland has been strongly linked to Man City, really, despite all of what's happened in the last couple of days, and we're going to get to that in the next segment. I think it's pretty easy to understand that he's trying to throw everybody off the scent here about the Erling Haaland situation, basically saying that we're not buying Haaland because the price is too big, and even us, we cannot afford it in this pandemic-affected situation. Now, should journalists be buying this? In my opinion, no. They shouldn't be buying this, because, in my opinion, when the push hits the shove, Man City would buy some players. Strikers or no strikers, they would buy some players. They would have a shopping spree as usual, but it will be pretty concise considering the effect of the pandemic, and also the fact that the financial fair play rules are suspended. They might try to bend them around a little bit and to try and spend a little bit more. But certainly, people should not be buying this. I don't believe a bit of what Guardiola is saying, because definitely they're going to be buying something. I don't know if they're going to be a big name, if it's going to be a prospect, someone from the Championship, depending what's going to be happening. But the scenario is, whatever's going to be happening, Guardiola is buying someone. That is surely what's going to be happening. He is buying someone. I don't want to believe it, because I really feel that Guardiola, again, the basic idea is trying to throw everyone off and, trying to break the link, basically, of Manchester City with Erling Haaland to take them off the race. Maybe people should stop focusing, on them, count them out of that race, which I think is the aim of Guardiola, if they're actually going for it. Obviously Guardiola did this before, he plays mind games really well. He's not exactly the worst mind games player of all time. He really does know what to do, does know how to affect players. And surely with the upcoming game against Borussia Dortmund and against Haaland himself in the Champions League, I think it's easy you make the conclusion yourself, is the fact that Man City at least are going to be trying to approach the Dortmund board about a potential deal for Erling Haaland. They cannot. They will just be too strong of a temptation, in my opinion, to just stay there and not try and approach Erling Haaland. In my opinion, they will try and approach him. They will try and do something about it, but it will be pretty discreet. They will try and make it pretty discreet. They will try to keep it a little bit of a secret. They will try and make it as less public as possible, because if it goes public, then it will start the cycle all over again of linking the club with the player. Now, will it work for them? Will it work for them to have no strikers this season? So far, it so far it did. I mean, so far it did, to be fair. Their main striker, normally Sergio Aguero, has been injured for most of the season, hit with the COVID, only made 8 appearances so far in the Premier League, scored only 1 goal, never played in the Champions League. And, it is interesting really to see, played only 1 match in the Champions League, which was the second leg against Mönchengladbach, pretty much. So, I mean, overall it worked for them this season. They were pretty dynamic without a striker, and also with the improvement in the back. With Ruben Dias, I think the fact that they have a solid spine in the back, and also they have a very dynamic sort of attack in line with De Bruyne, Gundogan, Ferran Torres, Riyad Mahrez, Raheem Sterling. I mean, even Gabriel Jesus, for all the criticism he gets for not being a good striker, for not being a good finisher really of the ball, he made he took his part really well. He contributed to the attacking efforts of the club. They're really doing fine in the league this season. In terms of scoring goals, I mean, it looked for a while like they will not score as many as they did in the last couple of seasons, but they get that point. They started getting used, I think, to the no striker system, almost to the testament really of Guardiola, I would say, the fact that they managed to cope without a striker, to manage to change his tactics to accommodate this new formation, this new shape of the team. And definitely, in the end, Guardiola won't really care. As long as he's successful, he won't really care if they buy a striker, if they don't buy a striker. But I think these comments are more intended towards the journalists who link between Erling Haaland and Manchester City, more than just the fact that normally Man City won't need a striker, because eventually they would. Eventually, they would have games where they need someone who can finish, classic situations like, cross into a header, takes a shot inside the box, all of that. Because they cannot, stay, playing or passing the ball around, just waiting for a dynamic movement inside the box forever, or passing into the net, basically, like they usually do. They will need a classic striker, they will need a classic number 9, and again, in the end, I think these statements and these sort of declarations from Guardiola are really meant to the journalists to throw them off. No links established between them and Haaland with that, and obviously trying to fend off any sort of, possibilities, any sort of suspicions about a potential deal. And again, with the game against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, obviously they will try and make an approach. I'm really 100% sure someone would try to make something, and someone would try to make an approach to Erling Haaland about a potential deal, whichever way it comes, a swap deal, a loan deal, something like Kylian Mbappe maybe went from Monaco to PSG, like paying a certain sum in the first year, and then paying a certain sum when the deal is finished. Like it is gonna be really, really big. It is gonna be really big if it happens that Man City pull it off and buy Erling Haaland from out of the noses of everyone. But again, back to Guardiola, I think the system of no striker worked so far to a big extent. I'm not going to say perfectly, but to a big extent. Definitely, they don't need it at the moment, but, for the next season, probably teams will be figuring out the way they play, and they will probably find a way to stop them, really, because by next season, I mean, it always happens, like, a team finds a way to dominate the Premier League, to just stream and really scourge through the Premier League clubs, and in the end it is hacked and the teams find another way to really stop it. So it's not going to take long before Guardiola actually needs and realises that they need actually a striker who can be a classic number 9, like Sergio Aguero was. I mean, of course, he's one of the legendary players in the club, and definitely his replacement should be someone as big, and also potentially could lead them into the next half a decade, maybe a decade next. Again, so overall, Pep Guardiola, I think, is just throwing people off. Maybe trying to, ease the tensions a little bit. Again, fend off the journalists, no links with Erling Haaland and all of that, and try to make Man City as far from this discussion as possible. Maybe even to make this easier for the board to approach without so much media fanfare, I would say. That's all I really think of, in my opinion. But, will it work for them? We'll see on the long term how it's going to be affecting the club. Speaking of strikers, it provides us with the transition nicely into the second topic here on the episode. And of course, again, during all the fracas of the international break, and of course the sort of the results of international breaks, focusing on the performances and, preparing to the Euros and all of that. A big event happened on Thursday. Mino Raiola's, Mino Raiola, which is Erling Haaland's agent, and Alfie Inge Haaland, his dad, went to Barcelona and to Madrid in Spain to talk to the talked about the directors and the board and the executives at both Barcelona and Real Madrid. And, for those of you who thought this should be done discreetly, well, Mino Raiola made sure that everybody knew about this. TV crew to follow him while doing that. Everybody knew when he was landing, where he was landing, what he was doing, where he was going, what restaurant is going to be going to, who's going to be meeting. I mean, the only thing that he would keep discreet is the terms and the details of the discussion. That is for sure. But everything else, he needed to make sure that it's a big power play, that it's a big statement, that it's a bombastic sort of event that makes people talking. And certainly, it made people talk. It made, the headlines that were generated are just, range from, just Erling Haaland's agent and his dad landing in Barcelona to the potential deal agreed with Barcelona or any other teams, like insert team here. Of course, he went to England afterwards. He landed in Liverpool. He would talk to Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, and Man City. Took those 4 English teams, of course. So that, I think, should be happening in the next couple of days as well. So again, this is going to be a big power play over the next couple of months. And this translates in a big way, on some sort of on a big power play from Mino Raiola, and it's not new from him because he did that with Paul Pogba. He tried to sell him to other teams a couple of months ago when things were not going well. But definitely the guy is back in his form now with Manchester United, and it looks like things were calming down for the moment as far as Pogba exiting Man United. But now with Erling Haaland, this is pretty new. So the situation is, Erling Haaland now is worth £150 million, 180 million euros, and that is the sum that Borussia Dortmund announced, and they will not backing down from. £150 million. And nothing less than that is going to be accepted by the board of the club. Next season, his contract expires with the club, and it will be slashed down. I mean, he would be only bought for 75 million euros. That is his release clause, which is going to be triggered next season. So if the club is going to be, letting him go, which seems very likely if they don't make it to the Champions League this season, it will be easier, I think, for for the other clubs to discuss the details of him leaving the club if they're not going to be making it to the Champions League next season. And it will be easier to, poach Borussia Dortmund into selling him with less than that, obviously. And 75 million euros next season is different from 180 this season. And, the board of the club obviously wants to keep him. And, Matthias Sammer again said once again that he is not the finished product. He still needs to learn, he still needs to develop in Borussia Dortmund. Trying to fend off people off him, but definitely won't work really. The numbers that Erling Haaland is making, the interest is generating, the headlines is grabbing really. And again, with this power play from Mino Raiola, the pictures, were pretty intensive, I would say, from Mino Raiola and Alfie Inge Haaland in Barcelona in particular. Like, once they landed in Barcelona, it became a big thing. The discussion with, executives from Barcelona, discussion with executives from Real Madrid, sitting down with them, understanding the project of both clubs, what they're going to be doing, and all of that, discussion being had. In the end, I think Mino Raiola is going to be deciding where to sell Erling Haaland next, because I think he's the one with the sort of the key of the situation. I mean, Erling Haaland is going to have his destination, surely he wants to play somewhere down the line in the future, but at the moment it doesn't look, I would argue he's not ready really. And this power play from Mino Raiola can only hurt him in the long future, because this could happen again. He might be a little bit not satisfied as Borussia Dortmund at the moment, not reaching the Champions League. There's a potential that they could be ousted of the quarterfinal against Man City. Who knows really what could happen. But if we're going to be talking about Erling Haaland himself, I think his value is going to be damaged a lot if Mino Raiola keeps doing these things. Because Mino Raiola is an annoying agent, and we saw that time and time again with Paul Pogba at Man United. You know, the statements that he was making, the sort of discussions he was having, the pressure he was making on the board of Manchester United to try and sell Paul Pogba when things weren't working exactly for the Frenchman. For Erling Haaland, things would happen, and the character of Erling Haaland, from a little bit of the incidents that happened this season, with Norway not scoring, a little bit of frustration, the couple of times where he walked out the pitch pretty angrily, Borussia Dortmund, the latest incidents, be it against Köln right before the international break, definitely showed that his character might be a little bit erratic and might be a little bit rash for his age, and that is understandable for a young player, really, who's still to reach his prime and still pretty much, the numbers that he's doing, and he's not even his prime yet. Like, we're not talking prime Erling Haaland, 24, 25, 26 years old Erling Haaland. We're talking about 20 years old Erling Haaland. We're talking about basically just, past the teenage years. So it's not going to be exactly an easy an easy couple of months for Erling Haaland. The discussion are going to be long. It's going to be a war for bidding between those sides. The sides are going to be willing to, just to break their bank, basically, and to sign Erling Haaland for 180 million euros are going to be the winners. And in Europe, realistically speaking, there's not so much sides that could pull off this miracle of price of 180 million euros. There's really, realistically speaking, and that's talking in a normal situation, not pandemic affected, we're talking Man City, Chelsea and PSG. And even Man United, that could be a little bit too much for them, despite the fact that they were one of the fewest clubs, I think, in the world that were not as much hit by the pandemic as other clubs did, because in fact they scored a little bit more profit than usual in 2020. So this could really affect Erling Haaland's value, and it definitely would be something that people would remember when they would, try and buy Erling Haaland from Borussia Dortmund or from any other club in the future if he moves to La Liga in particular, because Barcelona and Real Madrid seem to be prime destination, with the links, of course, in particular in Barcelona. I think with Mino Raiola being very close to Joan Laporta, it looks like the deal might come through. The Barcelona fans, I think, are preparing themselves really psychologically, being ready to witness the Erling Haaland-Messi partnership in Barcelona. Obviously, that is the project, I think, if it's going to be happening, because Messi won't be leaving. He's going to bring someone of that ilk alongside him at the club. And, I mean, it really writes itself. Like, talking about the potential destinations for Erling Haaland, it seems like Barcelona are the only sort of perfect landing spot for Erling Haaland at the moment. Because you look at Real Madrid, they still have Benzema. And, at the moment, the system that, Real Madrid are playing is not exactly going to be exciting for Erling Haaland to create tons of chances and to score the incredible amount of goals he does for the last couple of seasons or so. Because Real Madrid are not exactly a possession-based or a sort of a fast transition-based side. They really hold the ball. They slow down the pace, and that is not Erling Haaland's style. He wants to play in a dynamic team. And, Barcelona, with the improvements that they make in the season, I think they would sound more dynamic next season, just chopping bits here and there, taking out a couple of deadwood players, in my opinion. I think Busquets should be enough for this season, and by next season should be not done. I mean, bringing a little bit of fresh players, more fresh players to Barcelona, Barcelona would need a number 9 to finish and round off the chances, and Erling Haaland, I think, is the perfect number 9 at the moment to buy for the next 10 to 15 years, really, for Barcelona. Real Madrid, as I mentioned, Benzema is still there. They probably would think about someone else if they want to be buying a striker, because they want someone who can fit the mold of Real Madrid. You think of Manchester United, it is unknown really how it's going to be working, if he's going to be going to Man United, and with Mino Raiola, being his agent, it could be that we have 2 players that are unhappy at Manchester United in him and Paul Pogba, and God knows how that is going to be ending eventually. Man City, again with Guardiola not needing a striker at the moment, will he fit? Is he needed at Man City to score? I mean, the question of will he fit, I think he will fit, but it's just question more of is he needed at Man City more than anything else. That leaves, I think, only Chelsea with the and that needs a lot of selling as well from Chelsea. They need to sell a couple of players they just bought, so they're going to be needing some chopping as well in that squad. If they're going to be leaving a place for Erling Haaland, they might even go for Timo Werner for Erling Haaland, really, and that could be really, really big. I mean, that rumor sort of floated around a couple of months ago. Eventually, again, we will see how this power play could end, and I think it's going to be affecting Erling Haaland's value a lot if it doesn't work, and of course it depends a lot on what Dortmund are going to be doing this season. That's it for me for this episode. I was aboard the HOD of the BSP. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Follow us on social media. I'm at BSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, and until the next time, I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye.